Alright, welcome back guys to WrestleRant here. Today I am Graham Jason Matthews and we're only 8 days away from SummerSlam. But in the meantime, in between time, I've been reviewing every single installment in the event's history, including SummerSlam 2009 as seen on the WWE Network here today. So if you're wondering, on Tuesday I put up my SummerSlam 07 review, and where my review of SummerSlam 2008 is, it's not because I skipped it, it's because I already did it here on the channel. Go back to last summer, WrestleRant edition 137. Go back into the WrestleRant playlist. You should find it right there, my full review of SummerSlam 2008. So if you want to watch that one first, go right ahead. But right here in this video, I'm breaking down the 2009 installment of SummerSlam. So I didn't watch this pay-per-view as it aired. I was a fan at that time. I didn't watch it. I didn't order pay-per-views more often than not at that period in time. It wouldn't be until 2011, actually, that I would watch this pay-per-view in its entirety for the very first time. Someone got it for me on DVD. I don't think it's like on it as like a standalone DVD. I'm pretty sure it came like a package of some sort. So I watched it that summer. I watched it the next summer. I watched it the next summer after that. I don't think I watched it last year, but so as you can tell, I've seen this pay-per-view quite a few times. I've probably seen it 4 or 5 times at this point. So watching it back just this past week was actually pretty cool. Kind of brought back some memories of some really good matches on this show. I mean, it's never been my favorite SummerSlam. I have a lot more favorite SummerSlams. Even the shows that I was not a fan for that I've talked about here in the channel. SummerSlam 02, some of the Attitude Era SummerSlams, SummerSlam 2005. I thought those shows were all great. And this show, too, kind of watching it back just this past week kind of reminded me of how underrated it is. It's not an amazing show, but overall, though, I thought it was pretty good. Good to great show. So kicking off the show for the Intercontinental Championship was the defending champion, Rey Mysterio, taking on Dolph Ziggler in an excellent match. And even at that time, I didn't appreciate just the amazing chemistry that these two had together. I was just so pissed. I just remember reading a report that said, Mysterio caused Ziggler to not win the Intercontinental title on Night of Champions or SummerSlam. I was like, I hated Rey Mysterio for like a year and a half after that, just because of the backstage politics and whatever. Whether that was actually true or not, I have no idea. But still, because of that, I never truly appreciated the awesome matches and chemistry that these two had together. The match in Night of Champions was really, really good, and that was kind of like the coming out party, so to speak, like kind of the first truly great match from Dolph Ziggler in his WWE career. I mean, which is not saying much, because his first half of his career from late 08 to that point was matches with like jobbers and stuff, but that really showed that Ziggler was an amazing in-ring athlete, and that match was really, really good. This match, dare I say, was even better. Perfectly fitting in the opening slot of SummerSlam, not at all a slight to the competitors or the championship. The IC title has been known to kick off the pay-per-view in the past, including at SummerSlam just last year at SummerSlam 2014, and many other pay-per-views in the past as well. And kicking off the show, no pun intended, on a high note, a lot of high-flying maneuvers here. Ziggler did not look out of place whatsoever. Not the same, my name is Dolph Ziggler guy who was introducing himself to all the other competitors on the roster at that period in time, all the other members of the roster. He was a completely different competitor, and truly the wrestler. These matches with Rey Mysterio really brought out the best in Dolph Ziggler. That entire series of matches in the summer of 2009. This one being no exception. The finish came when Rey Mysterio had a Hurricane Rana off the top rope. I believe that was what it was. It wasn't a 619. I know what it is. It was either that or a sunset flip off the top rope, but whatever it was what got Rey Mysterio the victory and still the Intercontinental Champion. This was the match, in my opinion, that Dolph Ziggler should have won and captured the title. I know Rey Mysterio is from the area. He's from the Los Angeles, California area. And Ziggler's character was from the area at one point. Hollywood, California, whatever. They would end up giving the championship to John Morrison anyway, which wasn't a terrible call, and Rey Mysterio got himself suspended that September. And they would end up giving Ziggler the title the following summer, but I always felt like this should have been either this or the breaking point match that was supposed to happen for the Intercontinental Championship. But at any rate, though, this was a really, really good match that put Ziggler over in a big way, even in defeat. After that, we had MVP taking on Jack Swagger in a match that really didn't mean anything. I remember the build for this match basically being Jack Swagger saying backstage, like, oh, you went to jail. And that was pretty much the premise for this feud. I mean, not even joking, that was pretty much what was all to this feud. So, logically, people didn't really care. I mean, MVP was over. I always thought they could have done a lot more with him as a babyface. He was better as a heel. Character-wise, he really flourished in that role. But as a babyface, though, he was over that year. I really thought that he could have gotten the title shot that SummerSlam against Randy Orton, and that could have been, if they built him up properly, that really could have been a marquee match for SummerSlam. Ultimately, though, it didn't happen, unfortunately. But still, this match was good. It was well wrestled. Both guys are really good in-ring athletes, MVP and especially Jack Swagger. It's just that the feud, I mean, it's not like they just threw it on there at the last minute. They did have something of a feud going on at that time. But people didn't really care all that much because there really wasn't much of the feud, other than Jack Swagger saying, "Oh, you went to jail once," and that was pretty much it. Vast contrasts, a culture clash, as they called it at that time, given the backgrounds of both competitors. And I appreciate the effort to at least try to make the match mean something with the backstage segment that happened before the bout. So at least they were trying to make people care, so I can appreciate that. The match wasn't really all that notable, but it was good for what it was. MVP picks up the win, and that was about it. Both these guys should have been doing a lot more than what they were. After they came to Raw. MVP basically lost the U.S. title, and like I said, I really thought that was a sign that he was moving up to the main event as he should have, but they went a different direction instead. He never really did anything before he got released or left the company in 2010, about a year and a half later. Jack Swagger, when they brought him over to Raw in the trade following like that June or something like that, he was traded from ECW to Raw. They did nothing with the guy other than this one-off feud. Like I said, didn't really do much for him. He did nothing. He did absolutely nothing on Raw. It was a complete waste of time other than winning the Money in the Bank briefcase. But by that point, he had been so heavily damaged that people didn't really care about him anymore. So it's a shame. But still, nevertheless, a good match from the two at SummerSlam. After that, for the unified WWE Tag Team titles, Jericho defending against Crime Time. Again, Crime Time, I mean, Ziggler would ultimately end up winning the Intercontinental Championship. Crime Time never got their shot, never got their run with the World Tag Team titles. And I think that sucks. I really think that sucks. And I know JTG, I haven't read it yet, but I know he talked about in his book about having a lot of heat backstage, and that was kind of part of the reason why they never held gold in WWE. But I thought these guys really, at some point, deserved, even if it was for a day, deserved at least one run with the World Tag Team titles. And I mean, I kind of thought there was a chance of happening on this show that, JTG beat Chris Jericho. I mean, think about that for a second on an episode of SmackDown, the things that Jericho would do to put over younger talent. In retrospect, was kind of a mistake, and considering it was JTG, but, it really did a lot to make people take these guys seriously, Crime Time. And they were on fire that summer after being aligned with Shaq for a time in the summer of 2009, getting this title opportunity at SummerSlam. And, I mean, like I said, I thought they had a shot at winning, but then again, just a month earlier did Jericho and Big Show together as a tandem. I mean, technically, Jericho was already tag team champion from June, but it was a month earlier that Jericho officially formed, and they won the tag team titles, and they did not really seem like the transitional type of team, so it didn't look like they're going to be dropping the titles, and ultimately they did not. It was Jericho who successfully retained. But it was a good match, though. I mean, I appreciate the effort. The tag team division was not amazing at that time, but Jericho really was I don't know if I would call them underrated. I think a lot of people know how great they are, but it was a team, I will say, that I really did not have much faith for. I didn't at all think, personally, I didn't think they would succeed. It just kind of seemed like an odd pairing, but the two would have great matches against all teams they would face. Legacy, DX, Mark Henry and MVP, Crime Time. Every single team that stepped up to challenge them for those titles, they would just knock off. They would just successfully retain those titles and maintain their possession on the twin straps. And I thought it was a really good, they had a really, really good run as Jericho, and another good match here. Again, kind of a shame for Crime Time. They never ended up winning those tag team titles, but still a good match from the two teams. And the finish was really good too, with JTG at one point on a, hot streak. He had Jericho, and he was ready to, he was getting the better of him, whatever. And then he got stuck up in the ropes. And then just out of nowhere, just completely out of camera view, you see Big Show knock out JTG with the right hand. He just completely comes out of nowhere. I just remember reading the results for this show at that time. Because like I've said before, at that period in time, I did not order the pay-per-views, but I follow along with the live coverage on WWE Universe or WWE.com or whatever it was. And in following along, I saw, Crime Time is about to win the belt, and Big Show knocks him out, and that's it. I was like, oh man, I was so pissed. But still, though, a good match from Jericho and Crime Time. So after that, we have easily the low point of the night, Kane versus Khali. Now, after their match bombed at WrestleMania 23, 2.5 years earlier, I thought, I mean, at that time, I wasn't really questioning it, but, in retrospect, though, why would you go back to that feud? Their match at 23 was so fucking horrible. Why would you reignite this rivalry over on the SmackDown brand all these years later? It's not like either of them had improved in the ring. Kane's is a very good in-ring worker, I will say that. But Khali rather, had not improved at all. He was still fucking the great Khali. and he was going to put on a shitty match regardless. So why they even bothered to do this feud, I have no idea. Probably just to keep both guys busy. I couldn't have cared less whether Khali was on the SummerSlam card or not. They probably wanted to give Kane a little boost. He had been drafted to SmackDown. They wanted to do something with him. He had just come back. So I get that, but the match sucked. It was a sloppy match. No one gave a shit. Kane won on like a fucking DDT after like threatening to not rape, but you know what I mean. He was threatening to attack. I should have said that. That's a weird visual. Threatening to attack Rajan Singh, a great Khali's brother in storyline, which was weird. That kind of came out of nowhere. Hitting him the DDT on him, and delivering the DDT on Khali, winning the match, and that was it. Thankfully, putting an end to this fucking bore fest of a match and a total train wreck, and not in a good way. Just your typical Kane and Khali match. I mean, that's really all I can say. I can't really shit on it because you know what you're getting into when you start watching this match. It's exactly what you'd expect it to be. It's Kane versus the Great Khali. What more can be said, right? So after that, though, we had a great match in comparison to the predecessor of Kane versus Khali. It was D-Generation X taking on The Legacy, Cody Rhodes, and Ted DiBiase. Again, another really, really good feud. I thought the year of 2009 on the whole was not really all that good. A lot of repeat feuds. It was Orton and Cena, Orton and Triple H, John Cena and Triple H. Like all the same stuff all year round, I just was not a fan of. Just seeing the same old tired feuds all year long. But in that vein, though, they did put over the Legacy huge. They put them over in big, big fashion when they had them go up against D-Generation X for the fall of 2009. And the build-up to this match was well done. They kind of teased DX getting back together and Shawn Michaels returned to Raw, and they attacked them. They didn't really have much. They didn't have enough time to kind of let the feud flesh out before the match at SummerSlam. Shawn Michaels had returned to Raw on the Raw right before SummerSlam. They didn't have that much time, and their matches would only get better. The Hell in a Cell match I wasn't a huge fan of, but I thought the Breaking Point Submission Count Anywhere match was really, really good the following month. But this, I would argue, was their best match of the series. It was phenomenal. D-Generation X really made Legacy look very good in defeat, and very much so. The Legacy was, they had just lost a tag team title match in Night of Champions, and they weren't really doing much at that period in time. They needed a big feud or needed a big win to really establish themselves as a legitimate force, a legitimate threat in the tag team division. And again, they wouldn't win here, which is completely fine because both of them hit their finishers on Shawn Michaels at one point, came very, very close to picking up the win. But in the end, though, it was D-Generation X picking up the victory and scoring the first win in this multi-match feud. Like I said, they would face off again at Breaking Point the following month, followed by a Hell in a Cell match at the inaugural Hell in a Cell pay-per-view. So a really, really solid tag team effort. And it reminds me, and I was talking to someone about this, maybe it was RJ, I don't remember who it was, about how, and I think John too, about how, how the tag teams of Wyatt and Harper as well as Ambrose and Reigns could be involved in the tag team title picture right now, but their match at SummerSlam this year is a perfect example of how a tag team match does not need anything on the line in order to mean something. You could have four excellent workers and still have a very good match, and that's exactly what the case was here with DX, Triple H, and Michaels, as well as Legacy, Rhodes, and DiBiase. Tag team titles were not on the line, but they didn't need to be because it was a match that meant something. It was about Legacy wanted to put Triple H out of commission, as well as kind of ruin the return of Shawn Michaels, who hadn't wrestled the match since WrestleMania 25, so there was a question as to how well he would wrestle on this show, and there really was no question at all. He would come back, like a house of fire, and have an amazing outing here against Legacy, and putting on the all-star performance, the A+ performance that Shawn Michaels was known for throughout his entire career. So a good match, did not need the tag team titles, thoroughly enjoyed it. And finally, though, arguably one of the best parts of this match was not even the match itself, was the entrance of D-Generation X coming out in a fucking tank. Coming out a fucking tank, people! That's awesome! It was great when Rusev did it at SummerSlam this year. I thought it was even cooler when DX did it at SummerSlam, not at SummerSlam, I'm sorry, at WrestleMania this year. And I thought it was even cooler when DX did it at SummerSlam in 2009. That was a fucking cool entrance. I know DX wasn't what it once was back in the 90s, or even what it was in 2006. They couldn't make the cock jokes and all that other kind of stuff. But they didn't need to. They were still entertaining, and Shawn Michaels and, Triple H, regardless of what era they were in, regardless of what the rating was on TV at that period in time, those guys can make chicken salad out of chicken shit, regardless of what they were giving, because they were so entertaining together, and this was no exception. So after that, we had the ECW Championship match, which was another big fuck you to ECW. Not a great match because it only lasted 8 seconds. Christian beating William Regal to successfully retain the ECW Championship, and like I said, in a matter of 8 seconds. The bell rung, William Regal was taking off his robe, Christian capitalized, hit the kill switch, 1, 2, 3, and it's over. The Ruthless Roundtable, as it was known at that period in time, William Regal, Vladimir Kozlov, and Ezekiel Jackson, all taking turns, just beating the living shit out of Christian, and then walking away with their hands held high. So, again, a big fuck you to ECW, especially considering how good this match could have been. I mean, if you're going to do something like that, if there really was a matter of time constraints, then why not do something like that for Kane and Khali? You know, not make us sit through a 6-minute shit fest, a shitstorm between Kane and Khali, and then give us the great match between Regal and Christian. And we would get those great matches. We got one in ECW a couple days later. We got a really good match between them at Breaking Point, as well as on an episode of ECW in England back in November, or, you know, a couple months later in November. But still, I was kind of disappointed. Not really that Regal lost, because Regal was my favorite, obviously, but just that it lasted 10 seconds. I was like, what the fuck? I mean, if it was time constraints, that, you know, then do it for Kane and Khali, of all things. And even then, even if they wanted to kind of erase the record that Chris Benoit set back at SummerSlam 2005 for the shortest SummerSlam match in history, like being 25 seconds or something, again, you still could have done that with Kane and Khali. It didn't have to be this match. So, I think it was Justin in hashtag AskGSM that brought up a while ago, or maybe it was somebody else, were the ECW title matches kind of like the Divas equivalent on pay-per-view? And they absolutely were. There is no question about it. It absolutely was the equivalent to the Divas matches. They would get 0 time. No, there has not been a single good ECW title match at SummerSlam. Let's go back here. SummerSlam 06, Big Show and Sabu, an awful match. That match was fucking terrible. 07, John Morrison and CM Punk, not really that good of a match at all. You know, Punk has said that, Morrison has said that. Their match on ECW in Ohio, I think, a couple months after, in September, I think, was actually a lot better than that one. 08, Matt Hardy and Mark Henry got only, 3 or 4 seconds, like 30 seconds of in-ring time before it ended in DQ. That pissed me off. And then this match was, again, no exception. Christian and William Regal, lasting all of 8 seconds, so they got shorted for time again. So typical ECW, and it was out of business by the following year, so no surprise there. Still slightly disappointing, giving Regal some heat, but that was kind of a big FU to the ECW brand. After that, for the WWE Championship, we had Randy Orton defending against John Cena. Now, their match at SummerSlam 07 was so much better, and probably one of, if not the best match those two ever had. I mean, I love the Iron Man match too, and the series of matches they would have that fall were actually a lot better than this one. I love the Iron Man match. I love the Hell in a Cell match. That was really, really good and underrated in my opinion. I don't know if I've seen the I Quit match from Breaking Point, but I'm sure that was even better than this too. This match, I mean, the feud just got started. There was really nothing to it at all. John Cena's like, hey, I want to win the championship. Orton wants to continue his Age of Orton. Nothing really to the feud other than that. But the match was okay. It was boring early on. People weren't really pro John Cena on this show. But what made me mad about this match was that, you know, Orton being the chicken shit heel that he was, which is okay, I guess. I mean, he was great in the role that he was in late 2009. But the overbooking of this match was fucking unreal. You know, Orton gets himself DQ'd, he pushes down the referee, and then, so the match ends in a DQ in very lackluster fashion, so Lillian Garcia gets in the mic and says this match will restart, and if Orton gets himself DQ'd, he will lose the WWE title. Okay. So after that, he gets himself counted out no more than 1 or 2 minutes later, and then successfully retaining the WWE Championship. And again, Lillian Garcia says, per the authority figure or, you know, Vince McMahon, whatever, this match will restart with no countouts and no disqualifications. Or if, you know, no, it was rather if Orton got himself DQ'd or counted out, he would lose the WWE title. Okay, so we restart the match again. I think it was after interference from Brett DiBiase, and I'll talk about that in a second, but a quote-unquote fan interferes, and Orton, or no, even before that, I think Orton got his foot on the ropes, and that's how he won. He pinned John Cena to retain the WWE title. And again, Lillian Garcia says if Orton gets himself DQ'd or counted out, or, you know, he puts his foot on the ropes again, he will lose the WWE title. It's like, what the fuck is going on? This match is awful. So they do that again. And they have like a fourth match where the fan interferes and the referee is distracted. Orton goes over to ringside. They restart the match again. And then when they do, Orton hits an RKO through the ropes. And then he goes back in the ring, hits another RKO on Cena in the ring to retain the WWE title for like a fifth time. And this time officially, the match was not restarted. So many shenanigans, so much shenanigans in this contest that I was not a fan of. So much overbooking. I know they wanted to protect John Cena, but you could have done that. Just do what you did in the final fall and just have that be it. No more DQs or countouts and all that other bullshit. It felt like a complete waste of time for a match that got 20 minutes of in-ring time. It was kind of a bore fest for most of it. It was good at some points, but all the overbooking kind of ruined it for me. That was such bullshit. But the Brett DiBiase thing, I do want to mention this. That really disappointed me. They never really followed up on that. Because I remember reading in a report, a fan got involved. Oh shit, who could it be? I knew it had to be a plant. But then I found out shortly thereafter, it was Brett DiBiase, the legitimate real-life brother of Teddy DiBiase, who was the actual brother of Teddy DiBiase, who was a member of the Legacy with Randy Orton. So I'm thinking, this is a great way of introducing him to the WWE storylines and making him the newest member of the Legacy. However, though, the next night on Raw, it was revealed that Brett DiBiase was the fan. That was, the quote-unquote fan that got involved. I don't remember what the explanation was. I think Orton said, he got involved because, he jumped the gun. I don't know what the explanation was, but they basically did acknowledge, they showed him on screen that it was Brett DiBiase who got involved in the match. And that was it. They never mentioned it again after that. I thought that was like, Orton's match later on in the night against John Cena. Here comes Brett DiBiase. He's going to debut, or he's going to be a part of the Legacy. And he didn't debut that night. They never mentioned it again. And Brett DiBiase was, I think, ultimately released from the WWE a couple years after that. It really disappointed me. Because that could have been that moment for them to bring up Brett DiBiase as the newest member of the Legacy. Now, you can argue Legacy was great as it was with just Rhodes, DiBiase, and Orton. But even a year and a half later, I think the plan was for, Brett DiBiase to be called up along with Curtis Axel, Michael McGillicuddy at that time, Joe Hennig, whatever, to make a new stable. They were going to call it the New... maybe it was the New Day. I don't remember what it was called, which is kind of funny considering we do have a stable called the New Day. But it was something like that, like Genesis or some stable like that with McGillicuddy, DiBiase, and DiBiase, Brett and Ted DiBiase, because Ted DiBiase had just gotten finished with the whole Legacy thing, and it never came to fruition. They brought up McGillicuddy as a part of the second season of NXT. Brett DiBiase never got the call up, and Ted DiBiase just kind of flourished until he left the company in 2013. So, kind of surprising they never ended up doing anything with him. That kind of, more of than anything else, the match was kind of what it was. That kind of pissed me off, but I was disappointed they didn't do more with Brett DiBiase, and they didn't make more of an angle out of that by calling him up, and that could have been the perfect opportunity, in my opinion. So we get to the main event, CM Punk contending for the World Heavyweight Championship against Jeff Hardy in a TLC match. Now, when you look back in the year of 2009, I always say that year was not good. A lot of tired repeat feuds. Batista and Orton, Orton and Triple H, Orton and John Cena, Cena and Orton, Cena and Triple H. All these repeat matches and feuds that we've seen time and time and time again. I was sick of it. I didn't want to see it anymore. SmackDown, however, was giving us fresh stuff. Maybe not Kane and Khali, but it was giving us matches like this. Punk and Jeff Hardy was by far the highlight of 2009. Such a great feud. And I was such a mark at that period in time, as I am now, but I was like, I didn't think it was real, but I hated CM Punk so much. And it wasn't even that I was the biggest Jeff Hardy fan. Punk did such a great job of making people hate him that I was like, fuck this guy, I hate him so much, he was so annoying, And these two had such a great series of matches, putting on good matches at the Bash and the Night of Champions, another really good match, and easily the best of them all on this show. And followed up by a really good steel cage match on SmackDown the following week where Jeff Hardy would wrestle his final WWE match. But this match was also exceptional, and they made great use of the TLC match concept. And this was, honestly the last... we've had some good TLC matches at the TLC pay-per-view in the past, including a 2012 between Ryback, Team Hell, and The Shield, and then, 2011 between Punk and Punk, Del Rio, and Miz. But this was the final actual, special TLC match in history where it wasn't like, it's December, another TLC match. They brought back the stipulation. It was a time where the match where it was brought back, it meant something. They'd be like, this match will be tables, ladders, and chairs, and you're like, oh shit, this is going to be good. And at SummerSlam of all places too, and I think Todd Grisham mentioned on commentary that it was, or maybe Matt Stryker, I don't remember. They mentioned how it was 15 years earlier, not 15, but rather 9 years earlier. I mean, it's 15 years now, but 9 years earlier from this event that they introduced the TLC match contest officially at SummerSlam 2000. You know, the first ever official TLC match between Edge and Christian, Jeff Hardy, and the Hardy Boys, and the Dudley Boys, and Jeff Hardy was a part of that contest, and CM Punk would soon prove himself to be a great TLC match competitor. He would win this match, he would win at SummerSlam, or rather TLC 2011, in addition to SummerSlam, or rather that episode of Raw with Ryback where he won the TLC match on Raw, where he defended the WWE Championship. But yeah, a really, really good match. And I think the best part about it, much like Jericho and HBK from No Mercy of the year prior, No Mercy 2008, it wasn't just the big bumps, a lot of reckless shit going down here. Both guys could have killed themselves. Okay, maybe not that far, but there was a lot of stuff where it was like, oh, that looks dangerous. And even the swanton from the top of the ladder through the commentating table onto CM Punk was insane. But rather, it was the story they told. I thought the story they told was actually really, really good. I thought they told I thought they did a great job of kind of telling that story that Jeff Hardy was the ultimate underdog, despite being the World Heavyweight Champion. You know, a lot of speculation throughout the entire summer of 2009 that Jeff Hardy was leaving the WWE, which is why his world title victory and that of Champions came as such a shock. It's like, wow, he's actually WWE, or he's actually world champion. You know, I thought he was leaving, and he would drop the title here as he should have, but it was a great storybook, ending with Jeff Hardy as the world heavyweight champion and kind of going out on top, and almost literally with him hitting that spectacle of a swanton bomb from the top of the 20-foot high ladder. I think that's how high it was, on top of CM Punk, you know, through the commentating table. It was absolutely exceptional. It was amazing. What a sight to see. And then because of Jeff Hardy's daredevil-like personality, because he did that, CM Punk was able to recover quicker, capitalize on ascending the ladder, and Jeff Hardy would soon, heal as well. He would bounce back. Both guys at the top of the ladder, CM Punk knocking Jeff Hardy down and reclaiming the World Heavyweight Championship. So putting an end to just an amazing match. You know, both guys thrived in the ladder match environment. Punk, by that point, even before he competed in all those TLC matches, had competed in 3 Money in the Bank ladder matches at WrestleMania, winning 2 of them. So he was a ladder match specialist as well. And then Jeff Hardy is Jeff Hardy. He's competed in probably more ladder matches than anyone else in WWE history, winning most of them. So naturally you have that great chemistry together as opponents between Punk and Hardy. And then you put together the amazing story they were telling at that time, just the personal animosity between both of these guys really shining through in this contest. But in the end, despite everything that Jeff Hardy put into this contest, everything that he, all the times that he fought back and really, really wanted to reclaim and retain that title, it was to no avail as Punk ascended the ladder and retained his World Heavyweight Championship before knocking Jeff Hardy out of WWE only days later on SmackDown. So what a match and a great way of going off the show. And then Punk, who also cut a great promo earlier on in the night. This is really when he started cutting the promos of his career. I mean, he would cut great promos years later in the years to come. But he would really allow his mic work to shine through. He never really had any great promos during his babyface days. It wasn't until he turned heel that he really started to some of the great promos, some of the best promos of his career, in my opinion. But after the match, anyway, CM Punk would stand over the limp body of Jeff Hardy on the ground, celebrating his world title victory. When the lights would flicker and Punk would look up and be like, oh, that was weird, and the commentators would kind of no-sell it. And then the lights would go out, you hear the gong, and the place goes nuts. Lights go back on, and in Jeff Hardy's place was The Undertaker, right underneath CM Punk. CM Punk looks all around, where's The Undertaker, looks down, he finds him, he sees him with a great look on his face, a great shocked look. Undertaker catches him and a chokeslams him to the ground, and that's where you go off the air with Undertaker walking out, and that kind of sets the stage for our next feud over the World Heavyweight Championship between The Undertaker and CM Punk. So a great feud, or an amazing feud between Jeff Hardy and CM Punk, as well as a great return for The Undertaker at SummerSlam for the second consecutive year. So that closes out a very good, in my opinion, SummerSlam show. I never really liked it, after watching it so many times. Maybe that's why I've kind of grown attached to this pay-per-view. But even in watching it back, we've had so many good matches on this show. Punk and Hardy, an exceptional match, an amazing opener between Rey Mysterio and Dolph Ziggler. a very solid tag team title match, or a tag team title match, and a very solid tag team match between DX and the Legacy. Christian and William Regal was a blemish in the card that was like, oh, what a fuck you. Orton and Cena, all the overbooking was kind of, nauseating, but, the match itself was okay. And then the Kane and Khali match is a total train wreck. But, MVP and Swagger was also fine for what it was. So it wasn't a perfect show because of the aforementioned things, the aforementioned matches. But, even on its own, though, I thought this was a good show. And everyone involved, put forth a really good effort. And the main event was worth watching made the show worth watching alone. The main event was really, really good between Punk and Hardy, putting that exclamation point on one of the best feuds in the last 10 years. So would I recommend you watch the show? I'd say so, if only for the opener and the closer, but you have some good stuff and some not so good stuff in between. But even Orton and Cena, that was kind of like, I rolled my eyes. It wasn't horrendous. The only thing that was horrendous on the show is Khali and Kane. You can skip over that. But even Christian and Regal, it was a furthering of the feud. I wasn't happy with it, but it was what it was. And you had some really good matches in between the opener and the main event. So I would recommend you go back and watch this pay-per-view on the WWE Network right before SummerSlam in just 8 more days, where I will be in attendance. Cannot wait for it. But tomorrow, though, I will have my SummerSlam 2010 review up here on the channel. Looking forward to watching that show and reviewing it. The funny thing about that show, too, is that it's the final SummerSlam I've never seen. So after watching that, I have seen officially every SummerSlam ever. I mean, I have yet to review SummerSlam 2012 and 2014 here on the channel. But I've seen those SummerSlams before. I watched them live. I watched them at Buffalo Wild Wings, on the network, whatever. So I've seen those shows before. So SummerSlam 2010 is the final show I have never seen in its entirety. And I'm looking forward to watching it and reviewing it right here for your people's pleasure right here on the channel tomorrow on WrestleRant. So with all that being said, guys, in the meantime, in between time, you guys can catch me on Twitter at WrestleRant. Find me on Facebook. Give the page an old thumbs up at facebook.com/graham.gsm.matthews. Be sure to check out the website for my full reviews and live reviews of Monday Night Raw, SmackDown, NXT, Impact Wrestling, Ring of Honor, and everything else in between. And also, last but not least, be sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe. All support is greatly appreciated. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, guys. Have a great and stellar Saturday. I'm Graham G. Matthews, and I'll catch you guys down the road.